myself Himanshi Sharma. I am going to talk about the data analytics as a subject. I am an assistant professor in KAI deemed to be university. So the first thing that we are seeing over here on the slide is data. I'll give you one of the statement that data is current oil. The statement being specified as you have the raw oil and you have to work and process that oil in order to make it as useful as it could be. So similarly, you have the data that is provided to you in the nature is always going to be the raw data and it's not useful. There you cannot find any patterns and that cannot be used and that cannot be worked on and that cannot be used to analyze anything in future. So that sort of a data for in order to get certain amount of information out of it, we need to organize it, we need to work on it, we need to perform various analysis on it so that we can able to generate certain outcomes, certain information out of it so that we can do the analysis over it. So that is one thing that you have. And if I say the data, a data is just the collection of raw materials, raw numerical amount of things given to us. Analysis basically means that when we apply maths, machine learning, we able to perform a certain amount of numerical analysis over the data and able to generate a pattern in the data. So that is analysis for us, and that is combine the two terms, we have the data analysis. In total, if I talk about the data analysis is the collection, transformation and organization of a data where we can able to make certain amount of predictions from that particular thing and later we are able to inform certain amount of decision making also from the data analysis that we have already done. One of the things that we have over here is the sources of data. Sources of data are of the two type. We have primary data and we have the secondary data source. Primary data is from our surveys and interviews that we have, and secondary data is from the internal and external sources. In internal sources, we have organization. In external source, we have government agencies. If I talk about the primary data, there you have one of the examples is of the Tesla. A Tesla is one of the cars being designed in a manner where you are being mounted with the cameras and other devices, and they are the ones those who are going to collect the entire unique sort of a data from the nature. So that is one of the primary source of a data. There we have other examples. For example, like you can go for an interview method, survey method is there, observation methods and experimental methods. So these are the part of primary source of data. Another part, we have the secondary source, the data that is available over the Kaggle website. It's entirely secondary source of data. It's already being worked upon and it's the data that is there is certain amount of patterns being predicted earlier also. If as a person I'm working on that sort of a data, I need to apply the various steps over the data and able to find out what is the better pattern being designed as there already being comparisons are being made. So that is a secondary source of a data. In that we have like it could be from an internal source and it could be from a external sources. Internals we have talked about, like it could be from an organization. External could be from a government agency sort of a data. That is, for example, like if I have a flood data, so that's from the government agency data. Then apart from that, we have the nature of data. It could be qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative means a non-numerical data that we get, and quantitative is the data that is consisting of certain numerical values. So always when we are working on this sort of a data, there most of the time we have the quantitative data as compared to the qualitative data. Then after this we have there are other description is being given, like what are the different type of data a nature could be there, that is given over here. We have five types. We have numerical, descriptive, graphic and symbolic, and we have a descriptive data. Then after this, there is the definitions are being given for those particular sort of a data. Then I move on to the classification of data. When I talk about the classification of data, that is very important. We need to organize the data into certain categories. So there we can able to retrieve, sort and store for them for the future. And also there the classification is very important for the data security and for fulfilling the different types of business and personal objectives that a person we get. So there we have, this is the purpose of data classification that we have already discussed earlier, that the classification of a data is very important because it will help us to analyze the individual pieces of a data. Then after this, we have the classification of data is of the three types. We have structured, semi-structured, and we have unstructured data. A structured data is always going to be one that is organized. It's always going to be numerical form of a data. It's going to be predefined, structures are going to be there. It's always going to be stored in a form of rows and columns, and it is very easy to work upon. That's the structured data that we have. If I talk about the unstructured data, this is where we have other things have been given over here. We have like unstructured data. If I talk about, it's going to be complete opposite of a structured data. It's always not going to be stored in rows and columns. It's not going to have a predefined structures, and it's going to be a data set that is very consisting of, for example, like they're going to be the videos and audios are going to be there. Okay, so that's going to be an unstructured form of a data set. If I talk about the semi-structured form of a data set, it's going to be a combination of structured and unstructured form of a data. One of the examples is email. Like if you see the email on the top body of the email, you see that there's to, from, CC, it's being mentioned, date, time. You have that sort of a data that is in the email. That is the structured form of a data. Below the body of an email, where we can send any emojis, we can send audios, videos, we can have a written format of questions, we can attach multiple things. So that is like the unstructured data. So combination of the two things is a semi-structured form of a data, and one of the best example is the email. Now, if I instead of like this is just, I just want to like make a comparison between a structured data set, unstructured, and a semi-structured data set. Now, this is where we have been mentioned what are the characteristics of a structured data set. I have already mentioned that it's a data that is always going to be stored in a rows and column form. It's going to be numerical. It's going to be predefined structures are going to be there, and it's going to be way more accessible and efficient to analyze and work upon. What are the various sources of a structured data set? It could be from SQL databases. You have the Excel is one of the example, network web server logs, medical devices, online platforms. They are going to all provide you with the structured data set. Then after this, you have the advantages. Already mentioned that it's going to be very efficient, easy to work upon. There's a data mining is very easily being worked upon, and business intelligence operations are very much are dependent on the structured data. Then after this, you have the unstructured data set. I have already mentioned that unstructured data set is going to consist of rows and columns consisting of audios, videos, images are going to be there, and it's going to be more of a qualitative data set as compared to the quantitative data set. There is no going to be a predefined structures are not going to be there. There's not going to be any specific format is not going to be there. So then after this, you have the characteristics. The same things is being mentioned over here. Then after this, what are the going to be various sources of an unstructured data set? It's going to be from like it could be images, videos, reports, Word documents, surveys, and web pages are there going to be there. Then what are the advantages of an unstructured data set? It's the advantage is that this is a one sort of a data set you can work upon, and it can give you a variety of business intelligence and analytic applications could be worked upon. Okay, so this data is going to be portable. If I talk about the structured data set, the data is not portable, but in this case, it is very scalable and it is portable, and that is one of the advantages of an unstructured data set. Then after this, if I talk about the semi-structured data set, I have already talked about one of the example that is in we have the Excel sheet, and it's one of the if I talk it's an email I talk about, and it's one of the best example of a semi-structured data set, and it's going to be the data which is going to be stored in a form of JSON, XML, and CSV files. So what are the characteristics of a semi-structured data set? It's a data which is going to be combination of structured and unstructured. It's going to be very portable. It's going to be very not going to be have a very fixed shape or size. Its data is not going to be always stored in the rows and columns, and that is one of the characteristics of semi-structured data set. Example sources I have already discussed. Then after this, we have the basic comparison between the three things. Then after this, I talk about the characteristics of data. Our characteristics of data means it consists of accuracy. There should be that how accurate or real world scenarios are reflected in your data. So that is about the accuracy. What is the completeness? Completeness of a data basically means that the data needs to be a clear data set. There should not be null value should not be over there. Then after this, if I talk about the consistency of a data set, it basically about the uniformity is should be there, and the data should since the data is coming from multiple sources, so we need to make sure that data is not conflicted, and that data that we are getting is consistent, and it's a data which is being stored in the different locations. Then there is the timelessness, which means that data needs to be or the information needs to be readily available to us whenever we need to work upon it. So, and then you have uniqueness and validity. Uniqueness means the data that you're getting, there should not be any duplication, or there should not be any redundant information or overlapping should not be over there. Validity is basically means that your data must be collected according to the organization's defined business rules and parameters. So these are various characteristics of your data. Then after this, we have the introduction to the big data platforms. A big data basically means the large amount of data set which is there. It's going to be an opposite of the traditional data set that we already have. For example, we get the data from the various sources. For example, like today's the data generated is from the it consists of audios, it consists of videos, it consists of the data from the social media site. So that's a data is a big data. So that data needs to be stored at the platforms which is very portable, which is very scalable. The data which are very timelessness is there, and data which are can the data which is not there is no there's no limitations for the storage. So that is we have the big data. Okay, big data. Okay, if I talk more about it, we have it's the data that consists of in a size of an MB or maybe maximum sizes, and the size of a data can range from various several terabytes to the petabytes and exabytes. Then after this, we have it's a concept of gathering the useful insights from various voluminous amount of structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data that can be used for effective decision making in the business environment. Then what are the various sources of big data? It could be from a social networking site, e-commerce site, weather station, telecom company, or share market. Then what are the applications? They could be like banking and security. They can help us, healthcare providers, education, government insurance, retail and wholesale trade, transportation. These are the various applications of big data. Then what are the uses of big data? Location tracking, fraud detection and handling, advertising, entertainment and media are going to be one of the uses of big data. If I talk about the real world big data examples, for example, like discovering consumer shopping habits, personalized marketing, monitoring health conditions through data for wearables, live road mapping for autonomous vehicles, streamlined media streaming, predictive inventory ordering, and these are going to be the various examples or real world examples of a big data. There could be certain issues with the big data also. For example, like low quality and inaccurate data could be there. Processing large data sets needs large amount of softwares and management devices which we need to in order to work on the big data. Then apart from that, there is a integrating data from variety of sources. Since we are getting the data from the various social media sites, so we need to integrate that data also, and we need to work on it. So that is the collecting and integration is also one of the challenging tasks of a big data. Then there's the big data characteristics. There's 5V. We know we talk about 5Vs, and 5Vs are like volume, veracity, variety, value, and velocity. Volume, if I talk about, it's about the how what is the amount of data is given to us. Veracity, if I talk about, it's about the inconsistency and uncertainty in the data. Variety is like you are getting the data from the various sources, so that is the variety of data. Value, if I talk about the value of a data is like a numerical data that is being associated or the value being associated with your data. Velocity is the speed at which your data is getting. If I talk about the structured data, there is no speed for the data. But if I talk about the unstructured, semi-structured data set, there is certain amount of velocity associated with those data sets. So that these are the combined together, we talk about 5Vs, and these are the 5V of big data characteristics.